Yes.
This mic.
This mic?
Yeah, they'll all be on in a minute.
Okay.
Okay, they're all potted down right now because we're
Okay.
just gonna kind of start up quietly. Okay, you'll hear it in a sec. Welcome to the Author's Edge radio show with Guy L. Freer and Bob Price. Now, their show airs nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Each week on their show, they help authors create books that transform our lives and imaginations. Through radio excellence, they create a unique community resource, one that promotes, connects, and fosters a sense of well-being. Gael and Bob maintain a focus on sharing books, publishing, marketing, and writing solutions. They serve listeners by providing outlets for their creative skills and energies, and they help them flourish in the competitive marketplace. Their weekly show provides intros, writing spotlights, helps you in promoting your book, your writing, your publishing, your marketing tidbits, and much more. Okay, audience, here's Gael and Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Hi. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
Good. And how are you, Jolena?
I'm great. Thank you for having me today.
Our guest today is Jolena Johnson. And let me just kind of give you a little brief background. Jolena Johnson is the absolute good resilience coach, is an international trainer, inspirational speaker, and book publisher. It's time to interrupt the effects of people, places, and things. Authentic connection, intuitive interaction, and open communication create understanding. Jolena offers tangible ways to reconnect to the core of who we are and share them, if we choose. The principles of You're Brilliant, 7 Ways to Shine, are the foundation of Miss Johnson's life work. Hope and help for the hurting. She's also created a YouTube channel, Authentic Joe Show, and she's principle focused, results driven, heart centered. Jolene has taught over 95,000 people worldwide with her no nonsense, dynamic approach, becoming uniquely self aware, unburdened, enlightened, empowered through spending time with Miss Johnson.
Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you here.
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to add was the one of the ways that you can get in touch with her and what she's doing, and I'll say this at the end too, absolutegoodenterprises.com.
Yes, that is my website.
Okay, and so she offers a lot of services to you, and we just want to be sure that you know, absolutegoodenterprises.com. So what has inspired you to pursue a career in international training and inspirational speaker?
Well, it started long ago, back in the summer of 1970. I'm not going to go that far.
1970. Whoa. Great music in 1970.
I had bell bottoms.
So did I.
So no, when I was in college, I went to Mizzou, and when I graduated, I wanted to make a difference in my community, and I wanted to travel. So my first job was with TWA, and I could travel anywhere I wanted for $10 each way. But I didn't make very much money, and so I started traveling all over, and I ended up in Los Angeles, and I decided I wanted to live there. And so I ended up doing several different marketing jobs, and one day I said, you know what, this is great, but I want to make a bigger difference with people. So I started speaking and training. And then that led to working with high school and college students and things like that. And I was working as a contractor with Monster.com, making high school count and making college count. And I said, boy, if I can speak to 200 high school freshmen and keep their attention for 45 minutes, and I can talk to anybody. So that kind of started it.
Absolutely.
And so eventually I worked for a couple of other companies doing training and development, teaching life skills, communication skills, being assertive, leadership, those type things. And one day I said, you know, there's so much hurt around the world because I was traveling. I'd been to 48 states, 4 provinces in Canada, and 17 cities in the UK. And I said, you know what? I can do more. And so I said, let me write a book. And I thought at that time, oh, I just got to put this out here and it'll be great. And then I made a whole bunch of mistakes, and I found the St. Louis Publishers Association, and they helped me. You know, they have monthly meetings. And since that time, that was over 10 years ago, I'm a board member. I've been a board member for several years, and we help people as individuals as well as the organization to kind of get their books together and learn. And that's actually how you found me, through Dr. Warren Martin, who used to be the president.
Yes, that's right.
And so I just wanted to reach and teach more people. And I felt I've always been a person of words, but I've always had a servant's heart. And I feel like that's my purpose. And so I started writing books, and then people started asking me to help them write books. And then before I knew it, I was publishing, I was ghostwriting, I was coaching, and here we are today.
Well, bravo.
Thank you.
So, what do you believe are the most important elements of effective communication? I mean, you said you could hold the attention of, I taught for 39 years. I taught 9th and 10th grade English. Okay.
Awesome. One of my favorite people in the world. My English teachers. I still talk to my English teachers today. Okay. They're on speed dial. Okay.
Well, great. But holding their attention for 45 minutes is a long time.
Mhm.
So, how do you make that happen?
Well, you know, that particular program, we were talking about making high school count. And I think when we're talking about books, this is very important. You have to have purpose. And your message has to be relevant to your audience. So when you say making high school count, one of the things that they said was, you know, when you go, let's say you and I are entering 9th grade, and you get a 4.0 your first semester, and I get a 3.0 our first, or 2.0 our first semester. And then now I have to try to make up if I'm going to change my GPA. So let's say the next semester I get a 3.0 and so do you, but my GPA is still only a 2.5, and it'll basically stay there. And when they heard that hook, they were like, oh my gosh, you mean I can't mess around my freshman year? I can't mess around my sophomore year? So when
You can't even mess around in your senior year.
Absolutely, because it all makes a difference. And so I think when we're talking about books specifically, a lot of times people say, well, I had breast cancer, so I want to talk about that. Or I had this disease, or I did this, and I want to talk about it. But what is the purpose of you writing this book? Is it to share your story, or is it to help somebody else? And we have so many books. There's nothing against breast cancer, okay?
No,
but there are
of course
so many books written about breast cancer. So what is your unique perspective going to be? What solution are you going to give? What are you going to offer? What's the promise of what you're saying? And I think when you can come up with that, that helps you to be able to capture a person's attention.
Focus your book.
Absolutely.
And that's what I taught my students. You have to focus what you're writing. You be specific about what it is you're writing, and you make sure that that message is getting across to the reader.
Yes.
And if it doesn't, then you're not successful.
Yes. And I think one of the biggest mistakes authors make is they'll say, you know, read my book, read my book, read my book. It's like, okay, but what's in your book? What am I going to get? You know, people read books to be entertained or to be informed. Okay.
Absolutely.
And since I don't really write those books that are the most entertaining, if you know what I mean, I don't know if I can say smut on the air. Since I don't write those types of books, you know, a lot of my books may not be, or my author's books as a coach may not be the most exciting, but they're certainly informative and dynamic. And as a coach, it's important to help somebody, you know, why do you want to write it? What's your focus? What's your goal for yourself? But what's your goal for your reader? So when you say, read my book, you want to say, hey, I've written a book about this, and this is how this can help you.
Right.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
and yeah, the reader has to be able to get something out of it.
Yes.
Otherwise, they're not going to read the book.
Yes.
I mean, it's just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know who your focus is,
Yes.
and what your focus, and what your audience are thinking.
Yes. And these days it's a little tougher because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of books that are published. I mean, the last number I heard, I think it was like 10,000 a week.
Mm-hmm. I think
Okay,
that's
and
about right.
it's probably more now. I mean, because this is an old statistic. Okay,
Right.
so when you think about 10,000 new books every single week, why would somebody pick your particular book? And I think it makes it more difficult in a way. So someone like a Joel Osteen or a T.D. Jakes, you know, they have a built-in audience, right? So
Right.
when they sell a book, I mean, it's just gone.
It's right.
Right. But what about a regular person who says, you know, I have something really important to say? So I talk to them and say, well, what is unique? You know, is it based on your experiences? Is it based on your travels? Is it based on your work? You know, what are you trying to do as a result? What do you want them to do, think, or act differently as a result of reading your book? And I think when people can do that, it helps. It also helps if they're actually good writers.
Well,
Absolutely.
it helped Prince Harry since
That's right.
he
Prince
sold
Harry.
3.5 million in the first
Yeah,
week.
but he's also got his name going for him.
He's just
And
like
controversy.
Yes, controversy. I mean,
Yeah.
people are just curious. They want to know. So if you're not a celebrity or a well-known figure,
Yeah.
it's a lot more difficult. You know,
Yeah.
if a
It's
person actually sells, and you all probably know this, but if a person were to sell 350 books, period,
They were
is that-
doing really, they're a success.
Fantastic.
They are a success.
Yes.
Period. End of discussion
Yes.
on that, because 350 books is monumental
Yes.
to get people to buy.
hmm
I mean,
And even though you didn't ask me this, I would say also, I want people to understand that this is the business of books. So if you want to write a book and you want to sell it, and you need to look at it as a business, not a hobby, because it does cost. There is an investment. There's an investment of your time, your energy, and your resources, because you need an interior, you need a cover, you need
Right.
an editor. So I know I didn't have that whole list together, but I wanted to give you a couple of things that people need to realize when they're writing this book. And you don't want to ask your friend, your
Oh, no.
spouse, your
Good
brother,
Lord.
or your sister to
No,
edit,
no, no.
because they're not going to tell you.
they're not going to tell you the
terrible.
truth. They're not going to tell you the truth. They want to stay married to you.
Yes.
They still want to keep you for mom, and they're not going to tell you the truth. And that's simple. You know, I mean, your friends want to keep you as your friends. So they're not going to tell you that, the piece of book that you're writing is really got nothing in it except nothing.
Right, right. So you really, so I highly recommend a book shepherd, a book coach, or at least an editor, if nothing else.
Absolutely an editor. And I have gotten to a point where I've said to people, if you want me to help you with your book, that is fine. But if you do not get an editor, I am not going to help you with your book.
There you
And
go.
that's the end of the discussion, because I will not put my name on anything that is not well edited.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Do you still use Fiverr to find an editor?
I do. Well, no, to editors, no, but I have used Fiverr. I have been doing books since 2009-ish, and I think I started writing in 2008. So I found a guy on Fiverr back then, after I found out my first cover was bad. I searched, and this guy has done over 100 projects with me. So
Oh, wow.
So when Fiverr started off at actually $5, it was different. Now it's way different. But I would say fiverr.com is an excellent resource if you can look around and find the right person. You can't just go to Fiverr and pick anybody. You got to go look at their work, vet them out, and see if they do the genre you want, if they do the type of, look at their samples and just say, you know what, I feel like this is good. But if you go to someone who's here in America and you want them to just do your book, they may charge you anywhere from $250 to $500 for a book cover. And most people can't afford that. And when you think about it, if you're doing this as a business and you want to profit, you want to keep your costs as low as you can, but still be professional.
Right.
Well, you said one time there were two different types of editors.
Yes, there's a content editor, and then there's a line editor, and then there's proofreading. So I recommend people to talk to a content editor first, or that's why I said even a book coach. I offer a 2-hour consultation. Okay. And so someone can come and we'll talk about whatever it is. They can pick my brain for the full 2 hours. All right. So if I see a writing sample, I'll let them know, hey, this sounds good. Or maybe you need to go into more details or whatever. But they need somebody to just kind of ground them in the project and make sure they're clear about expectations and what they're doing. And then some people can just go and fly, and other people say, I need more help. Right. So when you have a content editor, they're saying, okay, let's look at this basically as an overview, like you would as an English teacher. Let's look
Absolutely.
at all these contents, what you think your chapters are going to be, what you're going to talk about, what your bullet points are, however you want to do that. And then you go from there. A line editor is someone that after you've written, then they may go back and actually look a little bit at the content, but they're going through and looking at the details and make sure now you have everything together. And then a proofreader is just after it's all said and done, that could be your line editor, but that's the person that goes back and says, okay, these are the
Spelling,
corrections.
your corrections.
Exactly.
Yeah, your grammatical errors and whatnot.
Exactly.
One of the techniques that I'd heard about was for editing purposes is when after you've written your book, do a reverse outline. Okay. And I heard that on a podcast the other day. And what it is that you take a look at you finished your book. Okay. You go in and you take each paragraph or every couple of paragraphs and you write one sentence to make sure that the outline of your book makes sense. So-
I've not heard of that, but I think that sounds excellent.
It does. I heard it on a podcast yesterday, the day before yesterday. I don't remember where. But anyway, what I was like, I looked at that. I was like, that's a pretty, because when I teach, I've told kids, you read it out loud, read it to your dog, read it to the mirror. Don't care who you're reading it to, but read it out loud. One of the other things I will tell them is to read it from the end forward,
Okay.
because you'll also find some of your grammar errors. You will also find some of your spelling errors, and then also make sure you don't repeat your words.
Mm-hmm.
So,
synonyms are
yeah.
important.
and please, Lord, get rid of the word very. Okay.
So
Get rid of that word.
I know some people say don't ever use it. Very does not go in your book. However, I can be very dramatic. So sometimes I want to use it.
Yeah, it's very important.
But it doesn't do anything for the rest of the sentence. It
Mhm.
really does. It's such an overused word.
Mhm.
But so we very much would prefer that you did not use the very word.
The very word.
The very word.
So one of the things similar to that, one of the pieces of advice I give is to think about the show Law and Order. Everybody has at least seen it's been
Yes.
on for 25 years, right?
Yes.
So what happens with Law and Order? Something happened, it opens up, a crime happens, and then they solve the case.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
Right there.
Okay, so that's what we want to do with the book. So every chapter, what are you doing? So is there a crime? Okay, solve the case. Is this an issue? Solve the issue. Is this creative? Just do that. Every single thing that you're doing for every chapter. Now, then you can go back and you can do that for every paragraph, for every page. So it's very similar to that reverse
Right.
method, I would say.
Yep.
But a lot of times, when people are writing, especially if it's their first book, they want to explain so many things. And if you think
Yes.
about Law and Order, somebody is just on the elevator and there's a crime, or they're walking down the street and there's a crime.
And there's no explanation.
There's no explanation. It just starts there and then they solve the case.
Right.
Now, of course, solving the case also involves investigating, and then they actually get the attorneys involved, and then they solve the case and prosecute. That's why I love it's one of my favorite shows.
Mhm.
So you want to think about it. You don't want to just, the crime, solve the case, and then leave us hanging. You want to give us some conclusion.
As a matter of fact, most of many, maybe not most, but many of the Law and Order type shows, they do it the same exact way.
Yes.
Even soap operas, they'll do it the same exact way. They'll
Mhm.
have some grand thing that happens at the very, very beginning.
You
And
used
then
very twice.
I know that. Very. Hey,
You've
do-
ruined it for soap operas for me.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
no,
sorry.
it's fine, absolutely. But you have to make sure that whatever it is, that you hook them into it,
Yes.
and then you explain what goes on, and then you explain the ins and outs,
Mhm.
and you develop your characters that way as
Mhm.
well.
Yes, and sometimes, and I mean, you're an English teacher, so okay. But sometimes I tell people, sometimes you want to use a brief sentence. If you say that hurt, period.
To the point.
Right. And then sometimes you carry some of those other things out. So, for example, this is another tip for any writer, potential writer. I could say, it's been a month and all I've been doing is eating Oreo cookies and watching Lifetime. Now it's 20 pounds later and I don't know what to do.
And it works perfectly.
And that's it. And we don't
and there's
know
no
what happened.
fairies in there.
No, it wasn't. so more than likely, I might have had a relationship breakup or something else, right?
But you're setting the scene.
Yes.
And that's what needs to be done. The scene has to be set so
Yes.
that people will buy into your scene. Everybody's done that 20 Oreo cookies.
yes.
And everybody sat and watched Hallmark until
Yes.
they cried
Yes.
and had more Oreo cookies. And then sometimes with ice cream,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
maybe cheesecake after that.
Yes.
That's 25 pounds. Can you describe kind of a process that you use in publishing, or the process steps that you take?
Okay. So I work with people to find out what they're trying to do, where they are and where they're not. So in my 2-hour consultation, if they've already written something, I've had people who didn't have anything and we started with 11 bullet points and written a whole book. Okay. Because it's like, okay, what's the subject? What are you trying to accomplish? So number one, what's the subject? What are you trying to accomplish? Or what problem are you trying to solve? And what is your actual solution? And what do you want the readers to get out of the book? So what do you want them to do, think, or say after they finish reading your book? So if it's an emotion, if it's an action, if it's something else that you want. And then once they do that and we kind of go through all these things, then I start to ask more questions. Now, why, what makes you the expert in writing this? It might be my lived experience. It may be a time I spent, 6 months somewhere. It may be whatever it is. Okay, great. Now, let's talk about the chapters of your life. Okay, so the chapters may be, one chapter may be, I was born in July in 1970. Okay. Then the next chapter may be elementary school days. Then the next chapter is I'm in college. Okay. So it doesn't have to be, okay, first, second, third grade. You just have to say, what are the elements? And I would say, write out that sentence with those couple of bullet points to just kind of talk about what's that overview. Okay. And then it might skip to 1992. Or it might skip to 1994 when I moved to Los Angeles. Okay. So it might be the City of Angels. Okay. So you talk all about whatever happened in the City of Angels. Now, not just your whole life story, but what's the point? When I moved to the City of Angels, this is what happened. And these are the significant things. And this is what I want you to know. And then you move on from there. So it's kind of like you're going to the cocktail party or you're doing Law and Order. Okay. There's a crime and you solve the case every time. So that's the approach I would take to writing. And then also, keeping in mind who is your audience, because one of the biggest mistakes new authors make, they'll say it's for everybody. No, your book is not for everybody. Everybody is not interested. It may be people who look like you, meaning they may be your age, or they might be slightly younger than you, or they might be extremely younger than you. So if you're a mom or a grandmother or something like that, and you're writing a book about family or a dad, people love books by men because we don't have enough of them. Okay. So whatever it is, you want to think about how are you the authority on it and what is your perspective about that. Okay. Then you want to say, I need to choose a cover design. And you don't want to wait till the end. What do I want this to look like? So I recommend people going to the bookstore, actually going to a bookstore. And if not, go to Amazon and look at books in what you think your genre is. So if it's a nonfiction book in a particular subject, go to the bookstore and figure that out and look at all the covers. And you say, oh, I like this cover because such and such. And I like the font of this color and I like the feel of this cover. So I recommend having 3, no more than 5 book cover samples to give to your potential book cover designer to say, I like these elements, because you're communicating a vision that they cannot see and they may not know you. So you can say, I like the feel of this cover. I like the style of this cover. I like the font of this cover. And this is my title and this is my information. Don't put the word buy on your cover. It does not go there. It's just your name. So just your name, not buy. I just want to say that. All right. And so then once you actually write the book, or during the time, if you have a coach or a ghostwriter like me who can support you during the time, then you work with that person. By the end of it, it still needs to be edited, because if someone like me is working with you, I'm in your head and I know exactly what you're talking about, but you need an outside person to come in and say, okay, absolutely, you missed this, fix this, do this, do this, do this, and or a proofreader. So at that time, if you're working with a coach, you don't need a content editor because your coach is going to be doing all that. But at the end, someone else, another set of eyes needs to look at it to make sure it's okay. Then it needs to be sent to an interior designer. And the interior designer, you can find them on Fiverr. You need to look, but you need to find them and find writing samples. And a good designer is going to have a website or something that will show you, okay, if it's a novel, you can choose this style. If it's a, nonfiction book, you can choose this style. So they'll give you samples, or you can, those same books that you were at Barnes and Noble, you look inside and you say, I like the way this looks. I want a rose. I want a clock. I want whatever it is. So I'm putting that there. So that's basically it. And then eventually you're going to have to, of course, pay for all these services. And one of the things, and I'll just tell you this, I do have a workshop that's coming up with the St. Louis Publishers Association. So I want them to come and get more information. So I'm just going to say this right now. It's called Bring Your Books to Life, the 2023 Virtual Publishing Conference. And that is, again, Bring Your Books to Life, the 2023 Virtual Publishing Conference is going to be held on February 25th, 2023. That is 8:30 to 12:30 Central Time. And if someone wants more information, they can go to stlouispublishers.org, and anybody can come on, and it's $40, and it's going to be the best investment you can make. So we're going to talk about cover design, how to upload to Amazon. We'll have 2 different editors talking about different types of editing, as well as me talking about 7 steps to make your publishing not overwhelming. So we'll give a little bit more details about that. So I just want to say that because I think it's an excellent resource for people. And then finally, you want to get your book, get a proof, and then look at it and make sure everything is okay before you press print. And one of the best places people can go, there's two resources. Amazon, you can print through Amazon,
Mhm.
and then you can also print through Ingram Spark. And Ingram distribution is the largest in the country, and they have different products. And so Ingram Spark is for independent authors or small publishers who can actually publish their book. And so they offer distribution and printing services.
Thanks, Jolena.
You're welcome.
That was, we're coming upon a break here.
Okay.
So,
Actually, I have a question about Ingram Sparks, but I'll ask that question when we come back.
all right. So,
So you've opened a new business. Congratulations. We know there's a laundry list of decisions you've had to make so far. We get it. But one of the most important decisions you'll make is how to promote your new business. If you want a great bang for your buck, look no further than becoming an underwriter on the It's Your Business radio show. A message about your business on our show can reach a dedicated base of millions of listeners daily in 100 cities that you'd be hard pressed to find elsewhere. In fact, radio reaches 90+% of nearly every demographic, and audio listeners are consuming more than 2.5 hours of radio daily. So why delay? For more information, call Dr. Stan Fine at 314-710-8413. That's 314-710-8413 today.
If you're looking for a new informative health and lifestyle show to gain knowledge and inspiration to help guide your journey to think, work, and live more powerfully, then you need to listen to Sage Advice with Melissa. It's live each Thursday from 10 to 11. Now, whether you're trying to improve your life from a mental, physical, or spiritual journey, Sage Advice with Melissa Coleman, CEO of Sage Skincare, delivers weekly advice from industry experts to provide you with insightful suggestions to allow you to thrive with a better quality of life. Melissa's mission? To guide you through the uncharted waters of health and wellness and to give you a voice to help improve your life. So be sure to tune in to Melissa on KWRH 92.9 FM every Thursday at 10 a.m. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, listeners, saying thanks to your customers is nice and polite, but expressing your gratitude in memorable and ongoing ways can boost your business. At Promo Experts LLC, we exceed our customers' expectations. For over 20 years, our product knowledge and experience has helped them with their marketing initiatives and trade show graphics. We are happy to put that experience to work for you. Quality products, great customer service, and prices are our number one priority. We work with you to find unique, creative, and new ideas that fit your image and expectations, helping you build strong relationships with your customers. When you select Promo Experts as your marketing partner, we help you to see more than the big picture. For more information about this exciting opportunity, contact Diane Carson, President, at 636-458-5241. That's 636-458-5241.
In today's economy, there are more people looking to buy and sell businesses than ever before. When a company owner needs to sell their business, they can't just stick a for sale sign in the window. They need the assistance of a business broker to locate and vet potential buyers. On the other side, buyers rely on the broker to help facilitate the process of evaluating potential businesses and franchises for sale. A Transworld Business Advisor is the solution for both scenarios. Transworld Business Advisors focus on three core concepts: business brokerage, franchise consulting, and franchise development. Transworld has specialized in the sale of business and commercial real estate. Today, Transworld Business Advisors is a global network of brokers offering a turnkey solution for those that want to build a solid business and future for themselves while maintaining a balanced quality of life. With our comprehensive training program, full marketing support, and local field support, you won't have to start from scratch. Our trained experts and members will help you every step of the way. Transworld Business Advisors has 40 plus years of experience, 10,000 plus businesses sold, and 600 plus brokers. 250 offices worldwide. For a free initial consultation, call Charlie Scarlett, business broker, or Billy Rowland, business broker, at 636-400-6100. Again, that's Charlie Scarlett, business broker, or Billy Rowland, business broker, at 636-400-6100.
You're listening to Author's Edge with Gael Freer and Bob Price, coming to you weekly on Mondays at 3 p.m. on KWRH 92.9 and KXOK 102.9 FM and AM, and Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network. And we've been talking to Jolena Johnson about all the fascinating things that she's been into. One of the questions that we were getting to was about Ingram Sparks, and I'd like you to maybe elaborate just a little bit more about what Ingram Sparks is and how to use that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, I'm going to give you like a 3-minute rundown, okay?
All right.
Because I do recommend people coming to the conference so they can learn more, okay? Because it's a lot to go over. But basically, Ingram is a distribution and publishing company. They are linked to all books around the world, okay? And so Ingram Spark is an independent program in their company.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically you go to Ingram and you can either just print your books or you can load your books there and have them be distributed. And so that means that if someone walks into a Barnes & Noble somewhere or another place, they can order your book. It may not be on the shelf, but they can go into the system and actually order your book and have it come to you.
Okay.
So that is the advantage to Ingram Spark. However, they do take a percentage of your profits. So when they sell the book, you don't know who's buying the book, but they will take a percentage off of every book. So you can't say that, okay, so this is the other kind of unwell-known fact about books in stores. Most books to sell your book, most stores to sell your book want a 40% profit, okay? And a lot of people don't know that. So let's say if your book costs $3 to print and it is retailing for $10, they're going to take 30% or a bookstore wants 40%. So they're going to want $4, and then that means that you don't have that much left over. So people need to understand that, okay? The difference is you can go to Amazon, you can upload your book to Amazon, which you can use basically the same files, and Amazon will not take that big of a percentage. However, libraries don't necessarily like to work with Amazon because just like we get boxes from Amazon, they do too. So that's what happens. So Amazon, they send the stuff, and so it's not going to say this is the book by such and such. And so it does not help libraries because they can't really keep their inventory when they're just getting boxes and boxes and boxes of things from Amazon. However, it can be a lower cost solution, and you can have an Amazon account, and then you can keep track of your books. So you can see something sold today, something sold the next day, those type of things. With Ingram, they don't necessarily give you those dynamic of numbers. They're getting better about giving them to you, but just understand it takes about a quarter for you to get any of your profits. So although you see the sales, you don't necessarily get a check cut for about 3 months. So I want people to understand that writing a book is an investment, and you want to use a company that's going to be the best model for you. And so it does cost to upload books to Ingram. It's not a expensive fee, but it does cost, as opposed to Amazon, which does not cost. So, you just want to think about, is it likely you're going to get in libraries? Most people aren't. So it may or may not make a difference, but the prices to print from Ingram and the distribution is better. However, you won't necessarily get as much profit. The great thing is, though, if someone does order the book, it's printed on demand. So you're not paying for those books out of pocket.
Right.
So that's the great thing about print on demand now. So people don't have to buy 400 books and keep them in their basement.
Right.
Hopefully that helps.
That does. That helps a lot. Dr. Stan, are you in there?
I'm in there.
All right. Well, we have Jolena Johnson here. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, I love listening to her. She's fantastic. I got a question. Does she ever sell books at different networking groups? Has that ever paid off for her?
Have you ever sold books in different networking groups, is what Dr. Stan is asking?
Not necessarily. I think it depends on your genre and what you're talking about. So we have several board members, who go and they do the Kiwanis and those type things. I think it just depends. A lot of people want to get into book clubs and things like that. So again, I think it depends on your particular network and what you're talking about.
And and the genre that you're talking about.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I've done a lot more coaching and publishing than I have writing. I mean, I do have 5 books that I've written. However, I don't even promote my books. I just, work with authors, because that's the other thing. I don't get paid to write my books. I get paid to help others right there. So I've been independent for over 20 years. And so, it's important to make sure that you have a living going on. So
Absolutely.
that's what I would say. Don't quit your day job. And I wouldn't recommend anybody just feeling like, oh, I'm going to just concentrate on writing, unless they're independently wealthy or they have someone else who's paying all the bills.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you promote or use any ebooks in your publishing? I mean, that you're working with authors?
I recommend ebooks, but it depends again on your business model. So what are you trying to do? Because a lot of times people will be cheap and they'll just buy the ebook instead
Right.
of buying the regular book, the paperback book. So
Right.
what are you trying to accomplish? So it depends on the type of book you have. If you're going to do some instruction and you want people to write in the book, or you want them to pick it up daily, and if it's a meditation book or something like that, there are a lot of people who still want them in hand. Other people, ebooks. I did do an audiobook and an ebook and a paperback of my last book, Broken Conditions. And I really actually recommend the audiobook because it's my words. And so you can hear the pain and all of those things because it came from me. So that was my first experience doing the
I want to
audiobook.
know more about that
Yeah.
on the audiobook. Tell us more about that.
Well, it's just, the book is called Broken Conditions, and it is, the back of the book says, peeling through the pain. With time, the layers are thicker, the content's more fragile. Hurt is real and deep and festers when allowed to collect, rotting in your soul, mind, and emotions. Have you ever wished you could peel through the pain? Peeling hurts too, because the infected areas become exposed. Facing exposure can be shameful, embarrassing, and difficult. Yet peeling can be soothing, as the core is safe if you can get to it. So this is from my book, Broken Conditions, and basically it talks about my actual experiences. It was supposed to be part of a 3-book series that I still didn't put out the other 2 books.
I was going to ask you about that because I looked your books up on Amazon and I saw that one, but I didn't see the other. I didn't see anything for the other 2.
So clients became a priority, and both of those other books are 95% done, still sitting on my computer. And I'm like, you know what? I'm in a totally different place, and here we are. But the point of Broken Conditions, as you can hear, it is about my life. I believe that everybody has some type of broken condition in our life.
Absolutely.
And yes, and we may have inherited it, we may have lived through it, we may have whatever, but these are these difficult things that we go through. And until we actually face them and acknowledge this is what's happening, and it's simply a broken condition that I can work through and perhaps fix or alter and start to do or think something different, then it can be different. So it's a very personal journey, and it talks about my relationship as a single woman, a married woman, a divorced woman, a woman with mother issues, and all those type things.
Wow.
Yes, mother issues.
And
Tell me.
so because it was supposed to be one of 3, I didn't really give a lot of advice, but I did expose the pain, if
Right.
that makes sense. And then to kind of go from there. So I would say, people need to think about, if you're going to talk about your life, how transparent are you going to be? And is that going to affect others? So I've had, my mother was very upset. But before I printed the book, I went to her and I read her the whole book. And then I didn't have to call the ambulance or the fire department or the police department. So we made it. But she had a lot of cigarettes. And I think she's still angry. And I'm sorry, but if I was going to I tried to be very respectful, but I did go into some things about her life. I don't regret it per se, but as a coach, and as I told you, I believe I'm here to serve people. I wanted people to understand we all have shame in some areas. We all have
Absolutely.
regret. So it's okay to say this hurts or this hurt me. And this is how I got here. So we see patterns, right? I mentioned my mom's a cigarette smoker. I don't smoke. But isn't that what happens? Either you do the same thing or you do the total opposite.
Right.
And this is often what happens when we grow up. So I think when people are going to talk about things, they can say, well, a relative. If something happened and it was tragic, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to say my first cousin on my dad's side named Tom. You can
Right.
say a relative who was about my age.
Right.
So you can do certain of those things. But if you're really going to reveal, you have to think about your purpose. And, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to wait until such and such dies before I talk about it. Well, is somebody waiting for your message? Have they been walking around wondering, what the answer is, and it's inside of you, and they're saying, where is the answer? Where's the answer? And are you holding it in because you're trying to wait until somebody dies, or wait until you have the right help, or wait until you have the right motivation? And I would say, if you're listening to this and you want to write and you have felt like you're called to write, get it out. And I'm not saying get it out and print it, but at least get it out. And if you have,
write it.
yes, and if you have
Absolutely.
everything in old notebooks, get to typing, because nobody's going to be able to do anything with it unless it's typed, electronic,
Yes, please.
in a Word document so it can be altered. Okay.
Absolutely. 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 Actually, you when you were reading that, Hurt is Real and Deep and Festers, remind me of the Langston Hughes poem.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay.
That's quite a compliment.
What happens to a dream deferred?
Yes.
And that is one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite, but
okay.
that's one of my favorite poems of the pain.
Yes.
Of dealing with pain. And
Yes.
because I think it was directed towards a certain time and whatnot,
Yes.
but I think it's something that still exists.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, but anyway, yes, that's the first thing. As a matter of fact, it's on my script.
Yes.
I put it
my
right there.
gosh, that's amazing. Thank you. That's a high compliment. Thank you.
But so how did you go about doing the audio book? I mean, what was the how did you get that going?
There are people who do audiobooks, and I can't think of, there's someone that I would recommend, but I don't remember the name of her company right now. But there are audiobook companies, and again, everything is available on the internet, so you just want to take a look and see. So, I did this audio back in 2017 or 2018.
Mhm.
So I actually flew to Denver, and I worked with a guy who does audio, and so he was able to give me a flat rate. I went in 2 days, and I recorded for 3 hours one day, and then came back and recorded for 3 hours the next day. And so, he told me, don't have any sweets, don't do this, because you
Mhm.
don't want your voice to crack and those type things. And we recorded.
But it was your voice. I mean,
It was just like now, how I'm sitting here in the microphone.
Okay.
I was in a little booth, and, I had my headset on, and I read the book. And so some people like paper and some people like digital. If you're going to read, then you want to do digital if you can, because otherwise you can hear the pages turning. The other thing is, I don't necessarily recommend everyone reading their own book. As you know, I'm a trainer and speaker and things like that before I was ever an author. So I felt comfortable reading my book. However, if you are not practiced in being in a microphone and things like that, you may want to get someone else to do it.
Enunciate your words.
Yes, yes.
I could thank my father for that.
Yes, yes. And so just like you said, you want to read your things out loud anyway. Every person who writes makes a mistake, some type of mistake.
Absolutely.
My mistakes are I'll forget and leave, and I may change it to and or, and I may forget to take it out. So I might have and or in the sentence. So I just forgot to take it. And I think very quickly. So I might have forgotten the word the. And so when I'm reading it, I'm seeing the, even though it's not there. But when I read it out loud, oh, the is not there. But that's also why you need another person's eyes on it. I also recommend people taking a break. So just like the audiobook, it ended up being, I think, 2 hours and 24 minutes, but we recorded for about 6 hours total. And then they did some editing. Now, the whole time I wasn't recording, but there is a process. And so I think it's very fascinating. And somebody wants to follow up with me,
I
can
would definitely like to follow up with that.
Okay, I can give you the name of the person. Her name is Jacqueline Prothello, and she has a couple of, she does audiobooks. So she produced mine. So she did a great job. So, but audiobooks, I think they're fantastic. But again, it's another investment.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I flew to Denver and I paid for it. And I can't say, I've sold a number of books, but when I look at all of the time and the effort that I put in, I don't know that I made a profit. But it depends on why you're writing the book. So if you're writing the book as a teaching tool and you're going to go out and get speaking fees, then that may be worth it. But that's a whole nother issue when you talk about marketing and things like that. So again, you need to set aside whatever you think your investment's going to be and plan not to get it back. And then if you do, you're doing great.
Yeah.
I just want to be realistic with people because they have all these high hopes and dreams, and they often get disappointed. And I don't want to kill anybody's dream. I just want people to be prepared and know what it takes to be successful.
This is for the long haul.
Yes.
This is not a get rich quick scheme. It's not tomorrow morning I'm going to be millionaire. Not any of those things. It's hard work.
Yes.
It's patience. and it's for the long term.
Yes.
And you've got to make that commitment for the long term.
Yes. And just like the
Well-
question before about do you go to clubs or, different
Mhm.
audiences and things, you have to think about, like if you are writing the book because you're a real estate person, so you're basically writing it so that people can say, oh, they're credible in real estate, then you're probably not trying to sell your book anyway. You're probably just trying to give it away when you have people coming so that they can say this is credibility. That's fine. If that's the reason you're writing the book, be clear that that's the reason you're writing the book. So it can be a calling card, as you will. But for other reasons, you have to
Right.
really think about, the price, the investment, what you hope to accomplish.
Do you do children's books?
I have done children's books, and that's a whole nother subject, but I will say children's books can be more difficult sometimes than adult books because you have to think about the pictures and you have to think
Right.
about the story and make sure that the story aligns with the pictures without telling too much. And you really have to set it up, and it is a craft and an art to it. And, you have to think about how old the people are. And then it's way more costly when it comes to your illustrations, especially.
Absolutely.
And that it's printed in color. So it's getting better. The cost, even though we're in inflation right now, the cost compared to 10 years ago of printing a color book is a lot less. However, it does take a lot of time and energy. And if you're into children's books, I think you can do it, but you just have to take your time. You can use Fiverr again, fiverr.com. I mean, I'm not getting any money from them, but I'm just saying you can find,
Absolutely.
and the last children's book that I worked on with one of the authors, it is really dynamic. And I found the person by going through Facebook and going through some illustration, illustrator groups.
Mhm.
And I just told them what type of book it was going to be. And I said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this style. Can you do it? And within an hour, I had like 25 people write to
Oh
me.
my goodness.
And so we found someone with the right style at the right price. And I would say, if you are, even though you didn't ask me, if you are looking at illustrations, you could probably potentially pay $50 to $500 for illustration. And you have to really think about that. And just because your child is a drawer at school does not mean they need to illustrate your book. And I said drawer on purpose, English teacher. I don't think that's a word, but you know what I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Just because they can put pen, just because they can color in the lines,
Yes.
does not make them an artiste
Yes.
to do an illustrated book.
Yes.
So keep that in mind.
Yes.
You're listening to The Author's Edge with Gael Freer and Bob Price, coming to you weekly on Mondays at 3 p.m. on KWRH 92.9 and KXOK 102.9 FM and AM, and Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. nationwide on My Genre Radio Network.
Okay, so you are brilliant. 7 ways to shine. What are the 7 ways to shine?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. It's been so long. Love, be patient and kind, respect yourself and others. I'm missing one. Love, be patient and kind, respect yourself and others. Number 5 is be a willing student, practice personal care, and put God first. I'm missing one. Respect yourself and others. Oh my gosh, I don't know the other one. I can't think of it right now. But I will tell you, love says, start now by saying, I love me. Because when you love yourself, you believe in yourself, and you know you are lovable no matter what. Also, loving yourself teaches you how to love others as well.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. You have to start with yourself.
yes.
And you start with yourself for everything, though.
Yes.
Not just the loving.
Yes. And I challenge people to say, I love me in the mirror 7 times. I love me, and keep on doing it 7 times and just see how it feels silly at first, but go back and say it again. And one of the reasons I say that is because we often write out of pain.
Yes, we do.
And it's important for us to say, I'm so valuable. I matter so much that I really do have something to say and share that will make a difference with others. So when you start to say, I love me, because a lot of people have not done that ever, we say, I love you, but we haven't learned to say, I love me. It can really help. So that's just the coach in me that has to say that. I know it's a little touchy feely and
was
everything,
good.
but
No, but it was very
No.
good. It was very on
Good.
point. It really was. I mean, you can't do anything unless you start with that.
yes.
So, that's important.
Can you share an example of a project that you're exceptionally proud of?
Well,
Hello, Moto.
I have so many projects that I've worked on with authors. There is a book that a series I've just worked on with a guy named Jeff Bender. And it is about, he has 2 children and they're both transgender children. And so we're talking about, it's basically guides to helping parents and grandparents understand some of the dynamics. So one is an actual children's book and one is a book for parents. And so I'm pretty proud of that because I wasn't really familiar with the subject matter. I didn't know anything when he was giving me some of these words. I'm like, what do they mean? And then we ended up putting in a glossary because a lot of times people don't know. We had his mom actually write a letter to say, this is how I felt when I saw my grandson wearing a dress and we didn't know how to talk about it with you. And so since that time, since the grandchild is now 8
Mhm.
and the grandchild is still wearing a dress, they're like, okay, well, this is how we feel. And so I'm pretty proud about that project because it was difficult for both of us because we were learning as we were going. And there's a lot of political issue about this. But I would say that parents love their kids, right?
Unconditionally.
Unconditional.
And so what can you do but try to respect that? And then this is an issue. And so it's going to be something that's going to continue in our lives. And so what can we do about it except make sure that we are being respectful of people? So that's what I would say. And I'm going to find the children's book is called Oh, I Just Didn't Know. And it's by Jeff Bender. And I think you can find it, The Lion and the Owl. That's his website, The Lion and the Owl. So, Oh, I Just Didn't Know, 11. Let me see. And I'm sorry, I wasn't really prepared to tell you that.
Oh, that's fine.
And this is for children and grandchildren because it's the illustrated book.
Okay.
Okay. And so 11 thoughtful conversations for grandparents and grandchildren. So it's so exciting because it shows what's going on. The number one thing in there is affirmation. So there's 11 ways, right? So affirming. So we talk about what affirmation is, a little story about affirming, and then a picture of the child being affirmed. And so it's 11 of those. And then in the back of the book, there are thoughtful conversations that grandparents can have with their children, their grandchildren, and talk. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
That is really,
It's
really
great.
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like something that everybody should be kind of reading because I'm just not sure there's a lot of people that know exactly all of the parameters around that.
Yes. And you know, what I would say is, and I know it kind of makes people uncomfortable, but let me just say this. We all have bias.
Oh, absolutely.
So if we can acknowledge our bias, and even if we don't believe or we don't agree, at least if we know more about it, maybe it can help us have more tolerance, period. And then maybe we can go to something else, maybe some understanding
And accepting.
and acceptance. And
Yeah.
acceptance is one of those words too.
Acceptance.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay. So what, let's see. Oh, what was there a time when your creative process was challenged? You know, writer's block or something like that when you were just like, I'm not so sure.
Or a client.
Or-
Yes.
Or clients, you're like, I'm not so sure.
Yes, I've had many difficult clients. Okay, so this is what I can't believe you asked me this and at the end of the interview. Okay, yes. So I've had people who come in and they're like a background dancer. They're like an Ike from, Ike and Tina Turner, right? An Ike. So they're a background dancer. And they don't know much, but they're here and they're in the background. That's how their skill level is. All right. And then once the book is finished, they feel like they're Diana Ross, the boss. Forget the Supremes. They're just, I did it all. And I'm just the superstar. And it's like they say they want to make a difference for people, but really it's just ego. And it's very difficult. And so I would say that I've had some people, by the time we were done, sometimes it's a few months, sometimes it's a year or more, just kind of flip the switch. And I think people would, I'm pretty direct, as you can tell. And
I think most people should be able to appreciate that because I am also very direct.
yes, and I care. And when we're working together, I'm part of this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'm part of the process. So the challenge is, I think a lot of times, it costs out, to do this. So by the time, if they're having some financial issues and everything, if somebody says, well, how was it working with Jolena? And they might say, oh, well, it was okay. Then you say, well, was there any financial issue? And then if they, oh yeah, probably so. That's probably about the only complaint. That's what starts. So yeah. I would just say, it's a process. Everything is a process. And so I'm so proud to have worked with every single person and I grow every time I learn. every time I
yes,
work with them.
absolutely.
But some of them I've definitely been like, I'm done, and
I'm glad I'm done.
yes, and go fly.
And go fly. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I hope they can fly.
And if they
Well, they're
can't,
superstars, so
well, they
go.
can, if they're a superstar, they can. Yes, I've had a couple of clients like that I'm like, yeah, thank you, but no, thank you.
Yes.
And we did something, and then I was done with that. So you also do a YouTube.
Yes.
So
So my
tell us
show,
more about that.
Yes. So my show is called Authentic Joe Show, and Authentic Joe is spelled J-O Show, and it's on YouTube. It's live every Tuesday night. So I actually have a show tonight at 7 p.m. And so I talk to people about different things. So it's get some information, grown woman conversations, those type things. And one of my more recent shows was about dementia. And
I didn't see it, but I saw it advertised.
yes,
I also saw the one about young men, black men, and perfection.
yes.
I saw
Searching
that
for
one.
perfection,
Yes.
Because a lot of times we'll say we're searching for perfection, but we're not perfect. So that's
Right.
really what it is. So I
Right.
kind of have a play on words. So I've talked about, a 47-year-old having a stroke.
Mhm.
We've talked about the best fraternities. It's just a different variety of things that, come up, and I feel like people need to talk about.
Do you set the tone? Do you set the topic, or
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm the producer and the creator, and then I have people who help me with the production, but I always set the topic. And so I actually have something coming up, and it's about defining moments. And so during the month of February, we're going to talk about defining moments for men.
Oh, for men.
Yes. So I plan to do 28 shows, pre-taped though. They're not going to be live, for the month of February during Black History Month.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And so to talk about, because a lot of times people don't ask men, well, how did you get here? What happened? How did you choose
Absolutely.
these things? And so I
Yes.
think we're intrigued to find out why.
and men aren't allowed to tell it how they feel. They're
Yes.
not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to tell how they're feeling. They're not allowed to do much of anything except, Oh, so,
Well, thanks, Jolene.
thank you so much, Jolena, for coming in. And I have loved just chatting with you. And I hope that we can get you to come back and chat some more, because this has been absolutely delightful.
Well, thank you. And I'm
You're
sorry,
welcome.
I forgot my 7th. I'm trying to remember, but I apologize. But I this has been an honor and a pleasure. And I just hope that somebody has been helped by this conversation.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
We loved having you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, we do. And our next show will be with Deborah Rainey, and she's going to talk to us about publishing and her book that she's got out, and the fact that she's also a
I
film.
think she's written about 20 books.
Yeah, she has. She's been in it for a while. She's also done a film.
That's right.
And
A movie.
A movie.
Yep.
Yeah, the movie is, I think I even have the name of the movie here. Let me see.
Well,
The movie is
Say
A Vow
goodbye.
to Cherish. It's A Vow to Cherish. And it was after one of her books that she wrote. So let's see. I also thought I had the name of the people that were in it, but I don't know. I don't see it. The actors. There's some big name actors in this.
Say goodbye, Gael.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.